gotta tell you, it is not often on this show that we are made to look bad, but I tell you what, Indiana made us look bad this past weekend. That's what we gotta lead the show with. Welcome to Fourth and Goal, where apparently we just know nothing about football because we, mostly at the direction of the model, picked Oregon to absolutely step on Indiana. And if it wasn't for Indiana throwing a pick six, Oregon would have gotten blown out in their own building. College football. That's just one big thing that happened in on the actual turf. But outside the sport, Penn State, they watched Kurt Cignetti beat Oregon in year 2 in Oregon's own building. And then they looked at James Franklin, who's in year, I want to say 12 with Penn State. And they're like, man, you can't beat them in our place? Okay. And then they just coughed up $50 million, or began the process of coughing up $50 million in order to get rid of James Franklin. That's pretty big. I mean, I'm sure the Auburn and Florida jobs are soon to follow. There's a lot of big openings in the sport right now. Coaching carousel is going to be crazy, but that's for later on down the season. Let's talk about what's going to happen this upcoming week. We're leading off today with Ole Miss going to Athens, Georgia to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. This is the second time Georgia has hosted a big-name ranked opponent in their own building. Last time didn't go so well. But hey, it's going to be a new day in Athens, so maybe they can do something other than just throw screenplays in critical situations this time around. A lot of the talk has been really around Georgia. Man, they keep getting off to slow starts. Man, I tell you what, Auburn should have been up 17-0 on them. First of all, the refs really robbed Georgia of a touchdown that they got from a fumble recovery, if we're being so for real. But, I mean, y'all are ragging on Georgia. What about Ole Miss? I mean, shoot, they've had close games to Kentucky, to Arkansas, to LSU. I know most of you will say, that's not playing down to your competition. LSU's good. We'll see if they can beat Vanderbilt this weekend. How about that? And then Ole Miss, I tell you what, almost lost to Washington State this past weekend. You want to complain about Georgia playing down to competition, having slow starts. Might want to look in the direction of the team from Oxford before you start talking about Georgia. You know what I usually love in games like these, or when you have a classic bad-on-bad matchup, like a bad run defense meets an absolutely atrocious rushing offense. We don't have that here. I think we've got strength versus weakness, and then another strength versus weakness. Georgia, they're really freaking good at running the ball. They are much better at running the ball than they were last year by any stretch. And then you got Ole Miss. They can't stop the run, too. They're kind of like Alabama. They just seemingly don't try to stop the run. It's the darndest thing. I always thought that was the first thing that defense was supposed to do, is stop the run. I mean, my mistake, I guess. Then on the other side, Georgia, man, they can't stop the pass. And Ole Miss, been pretty good at passing the ball with their backup quarterback the past few games. So one of those things, I mean, they're both going to give. Both defenses are going to give. Which defense gives more than the other defense gives, I think, is going to be key in answering this question. We affectionately refer to this game as the Nick Saban's Children Bowl here on Fourth and Goal. Fun fact, Kirby Smart actually has a losing record against Ole Miss. He has played them a total of 3 times. He lost to them once his first year in Athens in 2016, lost to them last year, and then beat them the year before in 2022. So, but you didn't think about that. You got one of the best defensive minds in the sport against one of the best offensive minds of the sport, Kirby Smart versus Lane Kiffin. So, what's going to work here? How's this going to go? According to the model, it's picking Georgia ever so slightly. It thinks that Georgia is just going to have a more balanced offense due to Ole Miss's just inability to stop the run, and that Ole Miss has the potential to be more explosive but inconsistent. That and home field advantage, obviously. Model loves home field advantage. That's been key in a lot of his picks here. That's what the model thinks. What do I think? I know that a couple of weeks ago, I picked Alabama to beat Georgia, and I was right in that Alabama's atrocious run defense, still being terrible against Georgia's really good run game, didn't mean much of anything in the end. I don't think that's happening here. I think Alabama has a bit higher caliber passing game than Ole Miss. I know it's probably going to offend some Ole Miss fans, Trinidad Chambliss fans. I just think those weapons at Alabama that they had on the perimeter they're just a bit better than what Ole Miss has, and I think Ole Miss is going to get theirs on offense. I think Georgia's going to get a bit more on their offense. It's putting a lot of faith in Mike Bobo. Never usually a smart idea, but I will pick the Dogs to win in Athens and firmly reestablish themselves as a playoff and national championship caliber team. Once Georgia gets through beating Ole Miss, we have a supremely interesting third Saturday in October. Not just the date, the rivalry. Tennessee at Alabama to watch. Alabama has no run defense to speak of, but has a pretty excellent pass defense. Alabama has a lot of passing offense, has no run game to speak of. Or does it? Maybe? I don't know. I can't tell. Maybe we'll talk about it. Tennessee, no defense to speak of, all the offense in the world. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to look at here. Going into this year, the quarterback switch with Joey Aguilar and Nico Iamaleava, it looked like an obvious detriment to Tennessee. Everyone was saying, well, Tennessee's going to take a step back this year. It's going to be a rebuilding year for them. They'll be back in the playoff conversation next year. Wrong. They are in the playoff conversation this year. Crazy. They look like the 2022 version of themselves, which also had no defense to speak of and had a terrific passing game led by Hendon Hooker. I mean, it just out of nowhere, it seems. Out of nowhere, Tennessee's offense has been revitalized, and it is running at a crazy high level right now. That defense, statistically, they don't stop the run. Statistically, they don't stop the pass. You know what they do, though? One thing they are good at? That's sacking the quarterback. Best in the SEC. They have been doing it all season long. And it looks like that's probably not going to stop here against Alabama's O-line that has given up 8 sacks the last 2 games. How does an offensive line give up 0 sacks to Georgia and then 8 to Vandy and Mizzou? For Alabama, what's been interesting is we all believe this is a different team than the one that lost to Florida State to open the season, but some of the weaknesses that team that lost to Florida State had seem to be the same with this Alabama team. Alabama is really terrible at preventing explosive runs. Alabama is really terrible at generating explosive runs. Unless Jam Miller is in the game. And that's where things have been really interesting watching Alabama the last 3 weeks once they had him back from his collarbone injury. Their game against Georgia's excellent run defense, was their highest rushing output of the season to that point. And then it got better against Vanderbilt, and it was looking like it was getting better against Missouri. Then Jam Miller got concussed, and he got knocked out of the game, and Alabama went back to having no run game to speak of. So him being in the game, I think, is the most important part of this, because when Jam Miller is in the game, that offense essentially has the potential to do whatever the crap it wants. I mean, the running lanes, the defense will have to respect the run. The running lanes are already a wee bit open because you have Ty Simpson throwing the ball, but when you got to respect the run also, and you have to devote more attention to the running games, that leaves you open on the back end. Ty Simpson will kill you on third down. The sky is the limit if Alabama can run the ball, at least on offense. In games like this, I usually look to home field advantage and turnover rate. Before I give my pick, let's see what the model has. Picking Alabama for the first time since the Georgia game, actually. It picked Vandy and Missouri to beat Alabama the last 2 weeks. I think Alabama's going to win this game. I mentioned before home field advantage, but they are great at not turning the ball over and also generating turnovers. I believe Alabama has like the best turnover margin or second best turnover margin of any team in the country. I think that continues this week. Joey Aguilar has been kind of turnover prone in his career. It's been a little less as of late, but I think this offense, it's been opportunistic every opportunity it's gotten, and I think that's going to continue. I think either a turnover early on and Alabama holds a lead, it doesn't give up, or a turnover late and they just salt the game away. I think that's going to be the difference in this game. So give me Alabama to win. Not going to cover that spread, though. And then the final game we're going to go over for this weekend is going to be I want to take a close look at what the model is showing us. And yeah, I would love to take credit for establishing this new method of predicting games, but I'm afraid I wasn't the artist. Model cooking up something else. So yeah, the new system here, you have run points and half points. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but from best I can tell, run points are how many points a team is projected to gain due to the run line. A team will score an average number of points throughout the season. And run points, everything from what I can tell, is how many of those points are attributable to the rushing output. So I got the total yardage that is made by the team on offense that goes towards the points. What's the percentage of that yardage that goes to points? That was rushing yardage. If you can understand what I mean, that's like the same concept as throwing the ball. the football we've got for this week. Friendly reminder, Pop-Tarts, crazy good. Dr. Pepper, not so much. As you can see, I don't have any Dr. Pepper stuff that can be seen here. We got Pop-Tart stuff, though. Crazy good. Pop-Tarts, please sponsor us. Have a great weekend.